All right, well, welcome to the third installment of the 2022-2023 Social Justice Leadership Series. Today, we are celebrating kind of a dual heritage celebration when we talk about and looking at our focus this year on really Laredo and kind of local issues. So this year, or this topic for today, is looking at the kind of intersectionality of our identities, of celebrating our Hispanic heritage culture, as well as our the LGBT History Month. And so today we have with us a guest speaker who's going to talk to us a little bit about Laredo's LGBT advancements, while also celebrating kind of this larger identity, kind of intersectionality of identities that we have here in the city. Yesterday was National Coming Out Day, and so, I've been here for 5 academic years, and I can say, and having lived in New York City, DC, I can see some progression, but I'm sure that our guest speaker today will be providing us with a little bit more kind of like the on the ground knowledge that is there. We are extremely blessed to have a TAMU alum, class of 2009, come in and speak to you all today. George Quijano is the founder and president of the Gateway City Pride Association to talk a little bit about this. But in celebration of kind of all of this, we also have continuing with our tastes for Hispanic Heritage Month. We have a taste of Colombia for our folks. And if you RSVP'd for this event, you can sign in and get a $10 food voucher to use here on campus in all Aramark locations. So with that, I'm going to switch over the screen and share the screen for our recording. So I'm going to turn it over to George to kind of lead us on this conversation for today. So let's give him a warm Dust Devils welcome.
Well, again, thank you, Dr. Hudson, for inviting me to talk to my fellow TAMU Dust Devils. Like he said, I graduated from here, 2009, majored in communication with a minor in marketing, and TAMU is just something that I really just hold dear to my heart. We have interns at the arena, and so we try to partner up, or at least I try to partner up with TAMU as much as I can. On another note, I was just recently nominated and voted vice president for the Texas A&M International University Alumni Association. So you'll be probably seeing more of me. But yes, so we'll be talking about the advancements of Laredo when it comes to the LGBTQ community. So let's see. There we go. So the timeline, I created it as more of a table of content. So I'm going to be talking about my experiences here growing up in Laredo, kind of intersecting my experiences and the events that were happening around the world or here in the US. Where we'll be talking about the 1980s, which I was born in 1986. It was a pandemic, the AIDS pandemic in 1981. Then the Great March of 1987, which was influenced by the neglection of the AIDS crisis, the Ronald Reagan administration ignoring what was going on here in the U.S. During the pandemic. And of course, that was the 1987 March was the one that inspired National Coming Out Day the following year, which is 1988. And so that's something that we've been celebrating every year since 1988, which yesterday, like Dr. Hudson said, was National Coming Out Day. Then we're going to segue into the 1990s. That's where, my elementary and middle school years happened. In 1994, LGBTQ History Month was created by founder Rodney Wilson, who actually visited Laredo about 2 weeks ago. Really nice man, and he has a beautiful story of himself, where he was teaching his students about the Holocaust, and he just asked a simple question that if he was in the Holocaust, what patch would he wear? And of course, he set the upside down pink triangle, which that pretty much branded someone in a concentration camp or during the Holocaust that they were homosexual. So his students were surprised but supportive. It was the parents that were really not for it, that he came out to his students, but he came out in an educational way. And so, yeah, he made national headlines. And so whenever you have time, just search Rodney Wilson. Don't ask, don't tell policy of 1994, that was with the military. You could serve the military, but you can't talk about your sexuality. The Defense of Marriage Act came also about in 1996, where a union is only between one man and one union, and also the death of Matthew Shepard, where he was tricked into believing that these two guys were into him. Then they pretty much beat him, to death. He was still alive, but they pretty much just left him out to die. They found him, and later, he passed away, and so that really caused anger within our own LGBTQ community, and a lot of these discrimination laws were being fought from the 90s and eventually got passed in the 2000s. In the 2000s, so I was in high school and college. I graduated again. I was here at Temi from 2007, 2009, Laredo College from 2004 to 2007, and of course, freshman year, 2000. But in 2004, Massachusetts legalized same-sex marriage, and first state to actually do that. So it was up for debate in 2004. George Bush was up against John Kerry, and it just seemed that when it comes to these political campaigns, it just causes division, as most of you might know. That happened, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. It still happens that they use LGBTQ rights as a political pawn, and so it's really unfair. And so that was the issue in 2004 was same-sex marriage, and it just became something bigger than it really shouldn't be, since same-sex marriage, I mean, you love who you love, and I think everyone should be allowed to marry who they love. And so in 2009, the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act, so that's when they started passing laws to protect LGBTQ members of discrimination. And 2010s, the Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed in 2011. Same-sex marriage was legalized in 2015. The Orlando Pulse shooting happened, the club, in 2016. During that decade, which was not so long ago, we're in 2022, right? But in 2010, I lived in Austin, and so I also came back from Austin, but we'll get more into that later. And then 2020, we formed Gateway City Pride. We really had something to celebrate since the Supreme Court ruled. The ruling prohibits the sexual orientation and gender identity based on discrimination. It's prohibited. We no longer cannot get discriminated based on our gender identity or sexual orientation. And then, of course, Pride Month kicked off in 2021. And then we'll talk about what happened this year, and then what are our future plans and when it comes to state ordinances here locally. And so pretty much I'm going to go through pretty much what has happened since I was born, what I've experienced, what I've seen within our own LGBTQ community, and just the relationships and the perceptions between how straight heterosexual people viewed us. I mean, living in a machismo city, I mean, we're all heavily influenced, or not all, but our families are influenced heavily by religious views. I mean, I grew up in a good Christian Latino family, which is a little hypocritical, I will say. They sent me to a Catholic school, but my parents were actually more Christians, and there is a difference. And so, yes, I went to a private school 8 years of my life. I was taught that nothing what, some religious leaders preach. I was taught that God would love me no matter what. Even the nuns and the teachers would tell my parents to really just keep an eye on me, that I'm, someone special or something special. But I will say this, I knew I was not normal since the age of 4. I mean, I would wear my sister's heels, and so I would really clack on the floor, and I would like to play with My Little Ponies and Polly Pockets, which I don't even think those exist nowadays. So yes, I went to private school. Then the transition from a private school to a middle school, I went to Clark Middle, and man, students could be just so mean, especially boys. They were throwing out the word gay. I really didn't know what it meant, but once I found out what it meant, I identified myself more as a gay boy back then. And so it was a little difficult trying to blend in. I mean, from a private school to a public school. And so let's see. After that, well, in middle school, they used to show a Channel One. It's like a news broadcast for schools, Channel One. And that's where I learned about Matthew Shepard. And so it made national headlines. And so just for a newscast or something like that be broadcasted in a public school made me feel like, okay, maybe Laredo is a little progressive, allowing, this type of news to be shown to especially someone at the age or whatever age they are in 7th grade. And so after that, I ended up going to Alexander. But before I go to my high school years, I was athletic at one point. I used to play sports, soccer, like football. So I moved to Alexander for my high school years, and I was in soccer my freshman year. But at that point, I already knew who I was. I just didn't come out, but eventually I did come out my freshman year in high school. And so I got out of playing soccer just to avoid the bullying, the embarrassment, the questions. But man, that still didn't avoid being asked such questions, because eventually my classmates in my math classes would ask me such questions like, I don't know, you're gay, or other ridiculous questions like, is your favorite color pink? My answer was no, it's forest green, and my friends say that's probably a better answer than pink, since it was so specific. Um, so I was bullied in high school by a group of guys, which was really heartbreaking. But once I would see these guys individually, they would not really say anything to me. It was just when they were in a group. So I stood up to my bullies. I told myself, you know what, if I see you outside of school, I will stand up to myself. So I saw them at the mall, and I don't know if it's still done now, but back then, what they would do, I would pass by and they would just say a lot, whoa, whoa. And so they did that at the mall, and I went up to the group of guys. Um, a lot of the guys left that one person alone, the one that actually starts this, the whole Joto thing. And yeah, I pretty much told them off. I told them, I might be a faggot. I mean, excuse my French. But at least I'm not a, PUSSY to say it to a faggot's face. And after that, I walked away. He chased me, saying, one more time you do that, te meto un vergazo. And I said, métemelo y te lo meto para atrás. And then after that, he left me alone. So that was my sophomore year. Junior year, since I already kind of traded the soccer balls, I changed them for pom-poms. I became the high school mascot. So yes, I was the tall anorexic bulldog for 2 years. Fun years, my junior, senior year. Before I go with that, my dad, when I came out to my family, it was really tough. The way I describe my dad, he would perform exorcisms on me every morning, and by that, they would just pray every morning. And some of the things he would say was just like, whoa, like I don't have a demon. But later I find out he did it because a lot of our LGBTQ members were being, beat up, killed. So I understood like where he was coming from, but I don't think he understood that if y'all are religious, my bad. I don't mean to. I mean, I went to a Catholic school for 8 years of my life, but prayer would not really fix my sexuality. And that's something me and him would always bicker about. So yes, finally I switched to soccer balls for pom poms, and I think he had hoped that I was surrounded by 27 girls, which he could hope even higher because that never happened. Clearly, I mean I'm still here, uh, and queer, and so yeah, that was just really some of the best days of my high school years, my junior senior year. Joined extracurricular activities, was in yearbook, was a co-editor. And so all these challenges that kind of came about growing up, being bullied, being unaccepted, I felt that I just was accepted by my peers. And so this day, I still have a lot of friends from high school, and I was even voted most friendly. And so I'm not really that friendly now. People change, right? But I was also nominated for most spirited and most talented, which I don't know why they even nominated me for that. And so graduation happens. And yeah, I mean, that seemed really, it's true what those commercials say where it gets better. It does get better. We all have our ups and downs, but what makes us stronger is the challenges that we could overcome. And trust me, there's more challenges after high school. But in high school, it was a little difficult. Like we didn't have any youth support groups. Our form of communication back then was not Facebook. MySpace didn't even exist. It was through a local chat room. And it was just really heartbreaking that a lot of the people I would talk, once they found out that they were talking with me or to me, they would ignore me or they really didn't have anything nice to say, mostly because I was out and they didn't want to be seen with an out person. And so it was just kind of confusing for me where I have a lot of straight friends or had back then, I still do. And they didn't mind it, but when it came to those that just didn't want to be seen with me or you had to look a certain way or act a certain way, um, it's like people are looking for masculinity, like mask for mask. And it was really, I guess, that machismo. But then, like, when I found out who they were as we grew up, I'm like, well, you're nowhere near mask, but okay, whatever, right? Um, but yeah, it was, again, no support group, no nothing, no organizations. I think talking to someone from Alexandra High School, she graduated recently, that there are some gay straight alliance groups. We didn't have that back then. But yeah, and so I'm glad that, again, that advancement is happening now because back then it did not exist. Um, but yeah, and so back to my high school years, my dad actually threatened to divorce my mom because of my sexuality. So that was another hardship too. But if it wasn't for my brother and my sister who were defending me, my dad eventually did come around. And so after high school, went to Laredo College, worked at Hollister. Great years. Really felt accepted, except for one instance where I was being compared to another gay guy, but nothing mean towards me. It was more of a, oh, you're the cool gay. I know that guy's the F word. And I'm just like, but the one thing I did learn growing up is as long as you respect other people, they'll respect you. Because I know there's some gay people out there that, like to really just pressure themselves on others, and that's not cute. But then, I kind of switched it around on my straight friends where when they tell me, oh, well, as long as gay guys don't hit on me, I'm like, well, what's the difference? Like, women don't like to be hit on by you. Like, you're being a creeper, so at least be flattered that someone's checking you out. But let's see. And so my college years, worked at Hollister, was really great. 2004, the year I graduated from high school, I went to Laredo College. That was when the whole same-sex marriage topic was just at its peak. I even gave a speech about it, how Same-sex marriages bring more money to the economy. It costs to get catering, it costs to get a venue, a DJ, maybe even a wedding planner, etc. It even costs to get a divorce. And so that's what I was saying, like my arguments with same-sex marriage. Um, let's see. Stereotyping. So during the 2000s, there was shows that were being featured in mainstream media like Will and Grace, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, Queer as Folk, The L Word. And so I think that was slowly opening up people's minds with these type of shows. But there was a little bit of an issue with that because then they were stereotyping us as we like to party, we like to be shirtless, la la la. To the point that someone asked me if I knew how to do hair, and I'm like, I'm not that kind of gay. But I know someone that could probably do your hair. And so, but yes, a lot of those mainstream shows really did change perceptions. But yeah, so then I transferred to TAMU. Again, best 2 years of my life here. I worked for the Bridge newspaper. That really helped me with my communication skills. The communication program in general helped me out a lot. I did my internship with the WBCA. Do y'all know what the WBCA is? Washington's birthday celebration. Yeah, Laredo celebrates George Washington for a full month. Um, I know why, but I don't know 100% agree with it. But what I did love about my internship, which I ended up working for them eventually years later, I learned a lot from them when it comes to PR and marketing. And so, yeah, kind of working with the conservatives, because that's a lot of the board members are, I'm not going to lie, were accepting of my sexuality because, I pretty much have homosexual stamp on my forehead. And even then, some people would ask me how their hair looks too, but it's like I'm not that kind of gay, but whatever. So yes, and so then I graduated from 2009. And after high school, a lot of my friends moved to out of town universities, San Antonio, Austin, everywhere and anywhere. And a lot of them were telling me you have to move out of Laredo. Like you have nothing going on there, la la la. And I understood. The economy at times, wasn't much better back then. The jobs either weren't better much then. Entertainment either. The open-mindedness of the culture here, but it's Laredo. I love Laredo. If I didn't, I would not have come back when I moved out to Austin. But yes, I moved to Austin after I graduated. And let's see. Hello, welcome. So I moved to Austin and I worked for a banking institute. Here I had dreams. Okay, I want to do work for a marketing firm or an advertising firm. Like I'm ready. Like tell me who's really prepared me. But yeah, so I worked for a banking industry for a couple of years. Things didn't go well in Austin. So in 2012, I came back. Also keep in mind in 2009, we were in a recession. Yeah, us millennials really do get the deep end of the stick. But it was kind of a culture shock when I moved to Austin. Everyone was so friendly. Like I would see, a really, guy with abs saying hi to me, and I'm just like, whoa, he's saying hi to me. But it was everywhere. Men, women, they would make conversation with you at the cash register. You walk in somewhere, they greet you. Here in Laredo, when I came back, I was the one making conversation with the cashier. So it's like totally different vibes, totally different attitudes. But yeah, I came back to Laredo and I really missed the Austin culture. It was just so different, so positive, the highs. And so I wanted to coordinate a Pride Parade and Festival in 2012, but didn't have the network, didn't have the experience. The only background I had was doing a public relations 2 project here at TAMU, which was with the planetarium. We created Rocket Fest, and I think that was like the most experience I had with PR, aside from my internship, right? And so we met, nothing really went. That was 2012. And, but yeah, I was missing Austin mostly, I'm not gonna lie. For some reason, being out of town, they make me feel beautiful inside and out. Here, I don't know what it is, but I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Um, so I'm here like thinking, is it because I'm not masculine enough or am I too tall? But yeah, that's where my insecurities play a toll or take a toll on me. But again, this was like 10 years ago. We're in 2022. So yeah, it was really hard to look for a job. Going back to the job market, I applied for a photographer company and did a few applications, etc. Eventually, I got hired at the WBCA. And so that's where I really started learning, expanding my network, working with media relations, community outreach, having an internship program between TAMU and, WBCA. And so, yeah, after that, 2015, I moved to the arena. And well, yeah, eventually I found after being unemployed, going from job to job, doing things I didn't want to do, eventually landed that career I wanted, which was marketing and public relations. So from the WBC, I ended up going to the arena, which I am there right now. So I went there in 2015. And so just to kind of go back to the timeline, in 2016 is when well, I jumped ahead actually. 2015, I was at a poetry contest in New Mexico. As you can see, I also do focus on poetry. So we competed while I was in New Mexico. Finally, they legalized same-sex marriage across all 50 states. And so that was just a really great milestone for the LGBTQ community. From 2004, making it a big issue and a topic, it took, 10, 11 years so that could get passed. And so, yeah, I mean, we've been really battling for our rights for even before 2004. I mean, ever since like the Stonewall riots of 1969 and even before that. And so that was a great milestone for us, a great victory. The following year in 2016, the shootings happened in Orlando. And so that was I think, the most deadliest mass shooting that ever had happened here in the US. But then now it's right after the Las Vegas shooting. And so it was really heartbreaking. But here locally, do y'all know who La Gordi Loca is? Gordi Loca. So I give her credit because she's actually the first one to create an LGBTQ march in a remembrance of the shooting. So the shooting happened the following day. She, like with her influence, we started at Burlington and marched all the way to down San Bernardo to Lafayette. And so this is just a photo of my friend and I that we were there. And so 2016, it's like never would I have thought that such a march would happen. And so that really showed me, you know what, there is hope here in Laredo, especially living in a machismo town, that, there could be things done for the LGBTQ community. Going back to stereotyping, I kind of skipped ahead. These were my two best friends growing up, like in college and whatnot. So with them, going back to stereotypes, I mean, they're two masculine looking dudes, and I mean, they're still dating. And back then, they didn't even know that they were dating because everyone, just because they acted masculine, they were really surprised they're going out. I mean, you see me, it's like, okay, yeah, we know you are, but then with these guys, it's like never would they have suspected. But then it's like, well, we come in all shapes and sizes, masculine, feminine, etc. But yeah, so then back to the Orlando shooting poll. So yeah, Gordy Loca was the one that actually moved that. And yeah, that was just really amazing how we were all able to just get together and march. All right, going to now the more setbacks and advancements. So there's a few organizations that target the LGBTQ community here. In 2017, two organizations formed, Laredo Pride and Equality Texas Laredo. I personally felt that one organization was concentrating too much on drag queens and really neglecting the alphabets of our acronym. While the other one, Texas Equality Texas, they deal more with ordinances and protection, the legal aspect of protecting our LGBTQ rights. And so November 18, um, what Equality Texas did, they proposed an ordinance that extends protection to our LGBTQ community. So for example, if the city wants to, hire a company, they usually get like 3 bids. That company has to state in their employment handbook that they don't discriminate based on sex, gender, religion, and sexual orientation. If they don't have that stated in their employee handbook, then the city will not hire them or even consider them to contract them. So that's just an example of what this city ordinance was. Well, it seemed that a lot of the city council members of 2018 were for it, but when they presented it, if you look at the middle picture, that is an attorney of Texas Values, and he's with a bunch of different leaders of the local religious groups that were against the city ordinance. And so I guess the city felt pressure from them that they decided, you know what, we'll review this later and, come back to it eventually. 2018, we're already in 2022. Where the hell is that city ordinance? And so, there we go, need more time to reconsider and or modify. Now, with that, Laredo is known as the least friendly city for LGBTQ community. Have you all read those headlines that were like the least friendly? You're giggling.
I can't believe that this.
Oh, do you want to say something? Feel free.
Like,
Mhm.
what?
Yeah,
Of a certain city of a certain size.
there we go. Yes.
City of a certain size is the least gay friendly.
Yeah, and so we're up here. I mean, we're not being compared to like Zapata, El Cenizo. It's more, being compared to Austin, San Antonio, other cities in different states. And so it's just some cities are included, and we always tend to rank low and score 0. And so that's why that city ordinance was important to pass, because at least I would raise some points, make that 0 higher. And so with that, that's actually the scoring of the 0 is what motivated us to also create Gateway City Pride. And so, but we'll get to that soon. And so, let's see. Just to kind of get a visual of the score that they have. Or what they score. They score on non-discrimination laws, municipality as employer, municipal services, law enforcement, leadership on LGBTQ equality. And so just kind of going through this, which I guess I don't have my notes on that. Forgot my notes on that. But yeah, so they look at like if there's non-discrimination laws in place, if there's leadership on LGBTQ equality, if we have like a liaison that's openly, part of the LGBTQ community. And so that's our score. Is that our score? Oh yeah. Well, if you could see, those are all the cities that are there. We are right here. 0. But yeah, you have El Paso, you have Austin, Brownsville, and so yeah. So that's what we're trying to do, is work harder to really raise that. Well, actually, I came across new data yesterday. We actually scored 22. Hey, that's an improvement from 0 to 22. That's the 2022, this year's data. And also, well, we scored a 10 on non-discrimination laws, which I think the city actually has something in place with that ordinance. And so The one thing I'm kind of confused about this is that they also look into the services that the city provides, whether it's for HIV or some youth group. And I'm kind of confused why we didn't get points on that, because I know the city health department um, really does do something when it comes to providing housing for those infected with HIV. But that's something that I would have to do research on my own or with other people to see how come we didn't gain those points. Let's see. So, how we started with Gateway City Pride, well, it was during the pandemic, and a lot of the birthday parades and graduation parades were really popular during the pandemic. And so, one simple Facebook post, hey, we should do this for Pride. And so, everyone jumped on it. So, we all met. Um, we were partnering up with a lot of the bars on E2B this street, but then the governor shut down all the bars. And so we were just kind of disappointed, but we just moved everything around and we rode around town. During the day, we had great feedback. We got media coverage. And so that really inspired me. Also, on that day, we were celebrating the Supreme Court ruling that employers are prohibited from discriminating people based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. So it was great, a great celebration back in 2020. And so after that, we ended up forming the bylaws, created Gateway City Pride, and let's see, is that the next slide? All right. So we're working with a lot of organizations, businesses. I was always questioning, how come Laredo keeps scoring 0? How come we're like the least friendly city? I mean, maybe I'm just oblivious, but every time I would go downtown, I felt safe. The bar owners, the bartenders, security, I just felt safe just walking around there. I felt that a lot of businesses were accepting of the LGBTQ community. And so within that, from 2020 to about 2021, I was communicating with different organizations and businesses. Hey, do y'all want to host an event for Pride Month? And so we partnered up with Laredo Film Society, the Laredo Border Slam, Laredo Pets Paradise, Rochelle's Bar and Grill, the downtown bars, and yeah, I mean, that was the calendar of events. And to me, this was much more of a marketing strategy where if we show the city of Laredo, we show the public, hey, look what we're doing for Pride Month. If we work together, we really just have a stronger voice and we make a bigger impact. And so that really, that's something that we wanted to show the city as well. And so from there, what we were in charge of, the Pride Month official kickoff, we had at a Cultura Beer Garden. What I've noticed is before the whole Pride Month calendar of events, a lot of businesses were already hosting a Pride event. From 2018, 2017, the Film Society would already screen an LGBTQ film. Cultura Beer Garden would have their Pride event. Frontera had Frontera Amor. When I would post on my personal Facebook, like, oh, I went to this event. Oh my God, I had so much fun. People were actually commenting, well, I wish they would have promoted it more. Of course, those that are marketing majors, you will know that when things don't go right, it's always marketing's fault, by the way. And so that gave me the idea, well, what if we communicate with people and just like, pull them in, hey, what day is your event, this, that, and provide the public with a calendar of events where if you cannot make it to this event, hey, you have this event, or hey, you like film, you could go to this event. So it's just, a little bit of everything for different tastes. And so it worked out really well. I mean, I had comments that not even Austin does this. I won't lie, I do give props to the WBCA because I kind of copied them with their calendar of events for February. So if you have internships, really pay attention, you could learn a lot. And so, yeah, so then that really just worked for us. And we did it again this past year. And a lot of businesses are, hey, to have something here. But again, from a marketing standpoint, we don't want to bombard the public with rainbows and butterflies either. Might as well, do something throughout the year because Pride just doesn't end in June. And so, yeah, we had our kickoff at Cultura, really successful. Again, we were like, the economy was opening up barely, businesses were opening. And then our local LGBTQ community made history. For the first time, the city proclaimed June as Pride Month. And this would not have been possible with Councilmember Alisa Sigaroa. She has been helpful since the day I reached out to her on a Facebook post. And so we had Sister Rosemary Welch give a speech, Mando Lopez, who is part of the Equality Texas State Board. The Mayor Temper, Rudy Gonzalez, he's the one that read the proclamation, and he even said it at the end of the speech, like we just made history. And so that's one advancement, or one of the few advancements that we made here in Laredo. And so, yeah, it was just amazing, and trust me, like I teared because never would I have thought the city would proclaim June as Pride Month. And of course, we had our Pride Parade and Festival. Did anyone have any of y'all gone to the Pride Parade and Festival here in Laredo? All right, just one person. Well, it's a lot of you too. All right, which one? Last year or this past year?
It was last year. Oh, no, this year, because I wasn't involved.
This year? Did y'all have fun? All right. Well, let me know. Give me comments, feedback to see what we can do better. And so that's something too that we work with the bars. And so since they got blamed for a lot for the pandemic, and well, they lost a lot of money, so they also enjoyed us spending our money there. Talk about exploitation, right? So yes, we had our festival, and the unique thing about our festival, it's not like other festivals. When we're getting sponsorships for the first year, we have businesses that were concerned that there was going to be shirtless men in chaps and probably gag balls, and it's like that's not how we're driving our Pride Parade and Festival. We have to keep in mind we are in Laredo, we are a border town. We know the consumer behavior, the psychographics of it, the demographics, and we used it as a tool to educate and raise awareness, which back then it wasn't glitz and glitter and floats and rainbow balloons. It was a 1970 march that stemmed from the New York Stonewall riots. Are y'all familiar with the Stonewall riots? All right. One person? Anyone else? Yeah, two. All right. Awesome. So yes, a lot of the bars in New York were getting raided by police and, just brutally beaten up until finally one day they just had enough and took one rock to hit the Stonewall Inn and caused the riots. And then the following year they had the first gay march, and then it became a gay and lesbian march. The 80s especially became more important for these parades because of the AIDS pandemic. And now it is what it is today, which it serves as a reminder that we are still fighting for our rights. We're not completely equal. With the whole Roe versus Wade that just, passed, a lot of my same-sex married couple friends are fearful because they have children. What if one passes away? Is that person going to be able to visit her wife at a hospital visit? What happens to the inheritance? What happens to all this? What happens to the children? So it's a really scary situation in today's age that now we're having these conversations. And so, yeah. And so after Pride, so we've done a lot. We've participated in a lot of community events. We're also hosting community events. We participated in the Dia de los Muertos event. We also give out awards to our allies, because without our allies, we would not be here. They really do help us get that message across, change people's perceptions. We also, last year we did a campaign, National Coming Out Day, so we were posting that almost every other day last year. The same thing with LGBTQ History Month. We were doing a lot of posts because I think there was a spike in COVID last year, so we tried to keep that more social media. By Visibility Day, so we try really to represent the whole acronym of the LGBTQ community. We made history with Pepsi. The Pepsi location here raised the pride flag. And so we even got a worldwide recognition from the company Pepsi. They really gave my friend Lexi kudos because no other city has kind of done what we've done. And so Just other events that we are having. We're having a Pride in History on October 22nd at Playmore, where a lot of organizations are going to highlight an LGBTQ icon that's contributed to our community. So that's next Saturday at Playmore from 12 to 5. And so that should be really interesting. Again, this is educational. It's supposed to be inspirational. And so is there still anti-LGBT groups and discrimination? Absolutely. I'm almost done, I promise. Just last year, this lady who's running for, I don't know what she's running for, but last year she was trying to counteract our pride, bless you, by having a strict date. I don't know what she was getting at, but then she started saying X plus Y equals U. And so, yeah, I don't know what exactly she was coming from. I mean, I was telling my peers, I don't mind a straight D, but then they tell me you don't get the point. Like, no, straight D is every day for them. And we're still fighting for rights, which my peers do have a valid point with that. I just want to keep the peace, but at times we do have to stand our ground, right? Tammy, you actually made headlines. I don't know if you guys were here as students, but Tammy was hosting an event. I think it was about conversion therapy. And so a lot of the Tammy students partnered up with Equality Texas. Sister Rosemary Welch also was present just to kind of counteract that event. Oh, and I just found this out a couple of weeks ago. Ex-LGBT Mexico, what they do, they have 14 steps for LGBTQ members to become straight. I'm kind of curious to know what that is about. I kind of want to take the course. They tell them to come out straight. But with me, I just like to prove people wrong, especially when it comes to these kind of groups. As for discrimination, I was just discriminated not that long ago, about a year ago. I was at a restaurant doing my job, working for the arena, and someone tells me I don't speak Joto. Like, I didn't even know what to say to that. I'm like, this is what I get for being in the South Side. No offense to anyone that lives in the South. Kidding, it's a joke. Walmart, during the election campaign, well, I was waving the pride flag, the US flag, the Texas flag, never put on a political flag. I just didn't want to do that because I did not want my car to get keyed. And so, but yes, I was walking to my Jeep and someone screams out, faggot. But it goes back to my bully. You say it when you're like 4 parking like lanes that way. Like, really? Come on.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I might be a faggot, but at least I'm not a coward to say to a faggot's face. But yeah, everyone was kind of looking at him like, well, what the hell is this problem? And I'm like, well. So yes, it still happens. There's still some groups like that. This one, no, they still went ahead with it. With these people, we're monitoring them. Yeah, so then let's see. So what we're trying to do, our next step, aside from bringing these awesome events that are educational, mixers, trying to really bring our community together. Because I'm going to be honest, I feel that a lot of our straight peers support us more than our LGBTQ peers, or maybe it's just me, they don't like me. I don't know. I don't know what it is. That's like our goal to like really just get our LGBTQ peers on the same page because we're not each other's enemy. We're supposed to be working together. We all have the same goal. We're not fighting for a drag queen pageant crown, we're fighting for equality. But yeah, so we've been in communication with Councilwoman Alisa Figueroa and Armando Lopez from Equality Texas to bring back that city ordinance. And so just a little update on that. It's there. It's just a matter of now really modifying it, like they said in 2018, 4 years later. They're reviewing it, Equality Texas, and eventually, hopefully, bring it back to the agenda and for it to get passed. Maybe we could score more than 22 this time around. And of course, like I said, we use Pride as a tool, so we hope to continue the Pride Festival and Parade host more educational events. We have fundraisers next month, well, next week, the Playmore event, Pride in History. In November, we have a Be Our Guest trivia night. So winner will take a family 4-pack of Disney on Ice tickets at Rochas. Yeah, so for all that information, just, follow us on Facebook. That's what we're here trying to do, just to really create community and also put unity in community. And so, yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. I hope I didn't exceed the 45 minutes. Any questions?
Any questions, anybody? I mean, I find this illuminating. I was talking with George earlier today about just where I've lived and the different cities that I've lived in. So for those of you who don't know, I've lived in many locations in the United States, but I've also lived in Argentina. And so, quick plug, we'll be sitting around in Argentina again. Argentina has one of the more advanced LGBT rights that exist in the world, specifically in Latin America. They were the first or second Western Hemispheric country to offer same-sex marriage. And they also have the ability for same-sex marriage to have adoption, as well as are extremely advanced on trans rights. And so paid for by the state to really allow you to identify and to really live your own true self. And so I find this kind of, this larger part of like where I've lived, the Laredo is in many ways a little bit behind the times as it relates to LGBT rights. I've lived in New York City, DC, been in some of these larger cities in this area, but I've been here since 2018 and have seen kind of a rapid progression, kind of like a tipping point take place in Laredo. And I'm hopeful that the momentum that we're seeing from not only our students, right, from students, and that's a lot of younger folk, kind of shape the way our family members think about the LGBT community. And I guess my question for George is, in the time that you've been here, which is, and working with the Gateway City Pride, so about 4 years now?
We're in our third year.
Third year, yeah, so 3 years. What do you really think is pushing the city itself to advance the rights for LGBT? Is it individuals? Is it building a coalition, like you said, with the businesses and looking at it through not kind of in your face like other cities do? Or is it more kind of operating on the edges? Like, where is this tipping point coming from?
I think the calendar of events that we did, it showed the city. Because what we ended up doing this past year, we went to City Hall in June to thank them for the proclamation, inviting them to the events, and to show them and remind them that, hey, a lot of these businesses support us, a lot of these organizations support us, and clearly a lot of the city council members do support too as well. And so it's just a matter of showing them, which I'm going to be really honest, the mayor is not really, for our LGBTQ community. He's respectful, but he will not acknowledge it. But I think just by the help of the arena, for example, lighting up Happy Pride Month, or Lamar billboards, Happy Pride Month, or having local influencers, it's really showing that there is support. And I think, because we're not forcing them to, we're not here like fighting them, no, this, that, no, it's what we're showing them. And I think part of the problem, I think I'm going to go a little off topic, is a lot of groups want to instill their beliefs in others instead of just respecting their beliefs and, creating conversation and understanding. And I think that's what we were able to do with the city, is just have these conversations, educate them, giving them the history that, hey, we've been fighting for our rights since like decades, even before I was born. And so, yes, I think it's the coalition that really did help kind of tip that.
Yeah, and so part of, I guess, this larger part is it's not just one community, right? So we've been talking about in the series that we've had this year, that it's a multiple pronged effect. So you can, as an individual, lean into your identity, like we talked a little bit about the last, we talked about Latino leadership. And for those of you, this is your first time, it's kind of a building upon series where we talk and try to weave things in. That it is coalition building. It is leaning into our identities in multiple ways. Well, we've run out of time, friends. I'm extremely appreciative of you all coming in for the event today. I'm extremely appreciative of George sharing his story, but also really seeing how Laredo has it. I continue to plug, though, TAMU has its own LGBT needs that are not currently being addressed. And if you are unaware of those, you could reach out to the Campus Ally Network, which is a student organization here. The one that was up there with they were going to do a pride parade here. We do actually have our own pride event here in the month of April because we're not here in classes during June. So reach out to Campus Ally Network around some of the topics related to LGBT student populations. Let's give George a round of applause for sharing. And so if you haven't signed in, we got the sign-in sheets. For those of you that did RSVP, or please make sure that you do.